We had one brand that was pacing around 100K per day in early November. And on Black Friday, that was when we did the 800K day. So that was about like an 8x increase.
If you do pre-orders right, your conversion rate doesn't drop that much. So in this way, you still get to sell where you're out of stock.
If you are running offers right now, what should you be doing to try to optimize for BFCM?
For most of you guys, your sale always ends tonight.
The more pent-up demand that you have, the bigger that boom is going to be on Black Friday.
People just think Q4 comes and then magically sales is going to go up.
If you're planning to do 20 or 30K on Black Friday and obviously have a big month in November, just get a developer.
Which is why we left it at the last part. Now you have your creatives, your offer, your site, your supply chain, all handled already. What do you actually do?
Mr. Wei Sean, how are you?
We're chilling, Mr. Spencer Pawliw.
Your name always sounds cooler than mine, man.
It's because we're not calling you by your middle name, Thomas.
No, you're doxing me fully now, man. What are we talking about today, bro?
We're talking about how we plan to hit $1 million days during this Q4, this BFCM.
What's the biggest day you've had?
Not much, you know. Unfortunately, it's too little. Last year in total, one store we hit about 800K. They just blended. Not enough, you know. Yes, it was great. It was one store, but you know, it was pretty gay. Needs to be more.
So the plan's $1 million day. How do we plan to do that this year, man? I'm actually, and this is something that we've talked about. I think even back in like January when we did that podcast with Carlo, we're like, this is our plan this year. We need $1 million day. What are we doing to get there, man? What's the plan from your perspective?
The thing is, I think we spoke about it back in January. Plans change, you know. We learned a lot of new things since then. So what do we need to get there? Short answer: increase budget. Okay, great, Sean. How do we actually get there? So, from all the things we've learned the past few years, right? I think it's my 5th year in eCom now. What actually works the best for Q4 for BFCM? First thing I'm going to talk about is just creatives as usual. Creatives is usually the easiest part about Q4 or running sales in general. Because for us, it's just sales ads. What I mean by sales ad is just, what's your best ad now? Just put a banner on top that says the sale, or create very simple image ads that just say, here's the product and here's the sale. Because most people in Q4, buying sentiment switches already. You're not so much trying to convince people why they need your product. You're just trying to tell them, because they're already looking for a product, whatever it may be your solution. So, hey, here's the sale, here's the product, go buy it. Every single year, that has been our best ads. People tend to overcomplicate it, but it's pretty simple. So our team's going to be max testing this sort of offer creatives, videos, images, all of them. That's what we're going to be doing on the creative side. Same thing on offers as well. It's going to be super simple, right? People think you need some insane offer. What does insane offer even mean? For us, the best offers has always been things that are super simple. Percentage off, dollar off has always worked the best. Creatives offers, same thing. How do you make it as simple to understand that, you know, there's an incentive to purchase during that? Besides that, people are purchasing during for gifting as well. How do you then incentivize bundles, discount off? Because they're already looking for it. It can be, hey, get it for the family or whatever it may be. And an interesting one, be it a client selling print-on-demand shirts and whatever else for them, all they do during Q4, of course, skip budget, is they have family-focused Q4 designs. Because if you have family-focused designs, you're not just buying it for yourself. You're buying it for you, your wife, your 2 kids. People buy 4 instead of 1. So for you guys, you can think as your product as well, right? If you're doing design, or fashion, how can you incentivize a bundle like that? Even for supplements, is it just for yourself or gifting or who it may be? So creatives offers these 2 things. Besides that, even the way we run ads, everything we do is super simple. Like ad account wise, it's usually just like a few campaigns. You might run an extra campaign for the sale itself. What do we do? So our promo campaign structure is split into 3 things. It's one CBO campaign, 3 ad sets. It's a top of funnel broad ad set, middle of funnel, which is just targeting Facebook, Instagram engagers and video viewers. The bottom of funnel being website visitors, add to carts. It's like a full funnel. Usually we don't recommend people to do retargeting, but during sales period, it's the only time where it's worth doing it. So the one campaign, 3 ad sets, same creatives across all of them with the same simple offer ads. That's the ad account setup. very simple. Besides that, you have the campaign down, the creatives down, the offer down. Besides the back end stuff, that's what you do on the ad side.
I think we just end the podcast right there. That's it. Thanks for. That's it.
It's
That's
a rare occasion, that Sean spoke more than Spencer. Right?
Let's go.
It's not Spencer's turn.
No, I would just say the one thing that I want to emphasize is, yes, it is simple, but I think the intent that we have leading up to Q4 is what makes it so big. And I think a lot of people think that, and we saw this last year, especially, having Evolve, because last January was the first time we actually had Evolve, because like Evolve didn't exist until I think it was like April of last year. So we saw so many people coming into Evolve just being like, I was doing 300K per month or 400K per month in November, and now I'm getting wrecked in January. Like, what's going on, right? And so I think a lot of people, I don't want to say it's easier to scale, because if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have momentum going into Q4, you're going to get wrecked. But the main thing is just that, Q4 kind of starts, it started in January. Like, everything that you've done to test new ads, get in front of people, all of those, if anybody has been running ads since January, if you go into your ad account and you just look at, from year to date, how many impressions you've had, probably had millions. I mean, our clients have tens, hundreds of millions of impressions that we've had. And so all of those impressions lead up to, building demand for Black Friday and for Q4 in general, that make these big days possible. And I also think at the end of the day, as much as the strategy is simplified, and I would 100% agree with everything that you said, I think the most important thing is that this year, the difference between us hitting an 800K day, and honestly, I think projecting to do over $1 million in a day for a few of our brands, is just the amount of intent that we have put in beforehand, and the amount of work that we've done before is what's actually going to allow us to do that. It's not going to be very realistic for you to just do $1 million day if you've not been doing anything the whole year. So I would say that's the only thing that I would add. And I guess something as a question to ask you, Sean, because obviously we see a lot of people that are not running evergreen. And so this was something that we noticed when we were doing some reflecting, and for those of you that right now are watching this, I think this video is going to come out probably like mid-September, maybe late September. You should be already like reflecting, or you should have already been reflecting on what happened in Black Friday in August. If you're watching this now, and I mean, we told everybody in Evolve in August and early September, like you should have everything already laid out already, have all of your projections sorted. I mean, projections should have been done at the start of the year, as we talked about as well. But we did an analysis, and we saw that some of our brands, we were looking at what they were pacing at early November versus what they did on the big day. And so cool numbers that I'll share with you guys. We had one brand that was pacing around 100K per day in early November. And on Black Friday, that was when we did the 800K day. So that was about like an 8x increase from what we were pacing at in early November to what we actually did on Black Friday. We then had another brand that was pacing around 20K per day and ended up doing about 50K on Black Friday. So that was about like a 2.5 increase there. So a little bit smaller jump compared to Black Friday. We had another brand that did was doing about 11K per day that jumped up to 82. That was another 7.5 8x increase. And then we had a final brand over here, just from the numbers that we had. This is for like smaller brands trying to find all different pockets, but they were doing about 2.5K per day, and they end up doing about 10K on Black Friday. So that was a 4x increase. And the reason why I share all these numbers, and I promise I'm going to bring this back into a question, is because I think for a lot of people, they want to try to figure out like, what are they actually going to do on Black Friday? And I don't have data to go back from like, okay, September 1st versus Black Friday, because the truth is you should be doing everything that you can to find winning ads and build winning pages and get moving into November with serious momentum. Like I just talked about, like you need momentum going in. And as Sean mentioned, the Crave strategy is super simple, where we put banners on our best ads, and you can't put banners on your best ads if you don't have any best ads, right, Sean? So
Facts.
The point is, a lot of you guys that are like trying to figure out what Black Friday or what kind of a day you can hit on Black Friday, we've seen that it's anywhere between like a 3x to as high as an 8x is kind of what you can expect based off of what you're pacing at on November 1st. With that said, longest lead up to a question, I think, in the history of Spencer questions. But the reason why I ask this is because I have the data on the brands that had the 7 to 8x increase compared to like a 2.5 to 4x increase. how much does existing offers leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so anybody who's running like buy two get ones right now or percentage offs right now, and they're maxing their margin, like how much does that have an impact on your overall BFCM? And if you are running offers right now, what should you be doing to try to, optimize for BFCM?
That's a great question. Because for most of you guys watching this, your sale always ends tonight. Whatever sale it may be, right? It's still active. So here's what you need to think about. Although you've been running your ads for so long, maybe since start of the year, how come Q4 suddenly people start buying? What are they looking for? The thing is, although people haven't gotten into your site, there is still a certain amount of impressions that your ads have gotten. Even though people haven't clicked on your website, they've seen your ad. So they know how much you're giving off, 50% off or whatever you say it may be. So what actually works the best is not rebranding your site and just having the same offer. That can work, yes, but it won't work as well as having an actual sale. Maybe instead of your evergreen 20% off, it's actually a legit 30% off sale now, right? People who have already been in your funnel, like the rest, Q1, Q2, Q3, in Q4, the buying sentiment is there already. They see actually, oh, it's a bigger sale now, a real sale, whatever it may be. Then they're going to purchase. So we always recommend you guys having an actual real sale. We've tested this before as well. Some store pages rebranded it, didn't do as well. Even you guys drop shipping, it's definitely beneficial if you guys have been running your store for some time already. Hit it up with an actual sale, update your site. That's what I would do for the offer.
Yep, I agree. And just to give you guys the data behind the brands, I did the 7 to 8x. Most of them ran most of the year without really running a sale. So that just proves to you, and when I say like not really running a sale, I mean we had the odd sale, like maybe a summer sale, or maybe I think we had like a Valentine's Day sale for some brands. But like at the end of the day, the brands who had like an 8x increase versus what they were pacing at. So and again, we had a brand doing 100K per day November 1st, or like first week of November, that's what they were averaging. Black Friday, 800K day. That comes from pent-up demand. So the more pent-up demand that you have, the bigger that boom is going to be on Black Friday. That said, a lot of you guys, and Sean, obviously we were talking about this with the evolvers, but a lot of you guys have commoditized products, right? Like you're not the only person selling that product. And so a lot of you guys think like because of your product or your brand, like, oh, hey, I don't need to have a better offer. At the end of the day, like the customers are looking for products. Like Sean said at the very start of this podcast, people know what they want and they're on the hunt to go and get it. And that's why Q4 is so hot and why a lot of ads, and we're going to talk about this, some ads start performing better again. All of a sudden, those ads that died are now like working again in your ad account. It's because the sentiment shifts in the market. But the point is that if you don't make your offer better, somebody else might. And if you have a very, similar product to what everybody else is running, who do you think is going to get the sale? Probably the person running the better offer. Now, this doesn't mean drive your margins into the ground. There's enough for everybody to, to earn and basically get. But the point is like if you're just rebranding your offer, like Sean said, customers, I always say like customers aren't smart, but they're not dumb. I think that was a quote that somebody had from me in a call. But it's like they're going to see that it's like, they're watching. A lot of people are even making their Black Friday list right now and they're ready for their sale. And then all of a sudden there's no sale. It's like, well, will some people buy still? Sure. But if you don't actually shift that offer, you don't actually make a better offer for this specific period, because it is a period where it's like, you want to give value to the customers, you're not going to do as well compared to the guys that are doing that. So just doubling down again, I'm just like echoing whatever Sean says, but I would highly recommend that you guys really try to work, and if we're going to get into supply chain and inventory and all that kind of stuff and fulfillment partners, that's going to be Sean's masterclass coming up here in a little bit. But even being able to communicate with some of your manufacturers right now, especially if you have legit projections that you've laid out saying, hey, we're going to be doing more volume come Q4, come Black Friday, what can you do for us, right? And that might give you the extra bit of margin that you need to actually have a good sale without completely burning a hole in your wallet. So next question I have is, what are the biggest mistakes you see e-commerce brands make in Q4?
Okay, I think from my side, the biggest one, people just think Q4 comes and then magically sales is going to go up. It's like, bro, if you don't have an actual sale, why is things magically going to go up? If you didn't do anything different, maybe things will just pop off, right? But do you think like you're going to hit the biggest numbers magically? Because people always say this, oh, I'm going to lock in for Q4. Bro, what were you doing in Q3? Nothing. what do you think Q4 is going to be big for you? So Q4 planning, Q4 success really just comes from the month before. It is a bit too late right now, but there's still things you can do about it. Besides that, the biggest ones, the goal of Q4 is not to make money just in Q4 alone. The Q4 big sales, you want to carry that momentum over to the next year. Q1 for a lot of you guys are huge as well, especially health brands, or whatever resonates with the New Year's. If you mess up Q4 because you didn't plan anything at all, supply chain breaks, print processors get shut down. What are you going to do in Q1? Can't sell. Print processors get shut down early. What are you going to do during Black Friday? Can't sell. Then you're screwed. The goal is to not just to make money quick. The goal is to make the money quick, yes, and build momentum moving up. I think this is the biggest mistake on my side.
I agree with that. I mean, we saw it, I think 2 years ago we had this brand that was like, oh, I'm just like, I'm working with you guys just for Q4. And at the time, I think we were like, sure. And, Q4 came and he had no winning ads, didn't have a great offer, was still very small, doing a couple $100 a day. And I still, to this day, it's trauma for our agency, but we don't know why we brought this guy on. And Q4 came and he's like, why are we not ripping? And I'm like, oh my gosh, bro. It's like, because you've done nothing leading up to this point. So at the end of the day, I think to not go on a tangent, that is like not being prepared for Q4. Because like when Q4 comes, like Sean said, you increase budget. Like if you're trying to like plan for Black Friday the week of, like I don't want to, it's everybody's favorite saying, but you're cooked. You know what I mean? Like you're that's too late. So at least now you have some time to like really try to dial in and optimize some creatives, because if you've seen my breakdowns from Q4 that I've done in ad accounts and stuff like that as well, it's always been the evergreen campaigns and the evergreen ads that we put banners on that absolutely rip for us or murder for us in Q4. And so if you don't have those going into Q4, it's not just going to magically explode for you. So next question I have on here is what are some new strategies that you're testing this year that maybe you haven't done before, if there are any?
Not to say like a new strategy, but okay, this might be shocking to a few people. So I think last year we were doing a lot of lead gen. Last 2 years, we did a lot of lead gen leading up to Q4. I would say for majority of you guys doing lead gen, it's not really that worth it. Why? Because most brands are gonna start their sales pretty early, like start of November. Some started much earlier. I think unless you're like a brand with huge returning customers, fashion or beauty, like people are wanting to buy regardless. If they're gonna buy from you, they're gonna buy from somewhere else that have a sale already. So for a lot of the brands, we're not really gonna run lead gen unless they are big on LTV, like fashion or beauty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think axing that, and even then when we reviewed the data on that, we were looking at one of our brands that they got like a 4 or 5x ROAS from the lead gen campaign that we did, but we spent like $10K on the lead gen campaign, and on Black Friday itself we spent $100. So it's like it was kind of like a drop in the bucket sort of thing. So yeah, I think lead gen is something that we're not doing this year. I think a new strategy that we are testing this year is definitely going earlier. It's something I think every year we try to collect data from Black Friday, but I'd say there's two things that we're doing differently this year. Number one is definitely running a little bit earlier. Obviously all the guys involved have the docs and the dates that we're starting on, so I've got to gatekeep that for them before they cancel me. But what I would say is that, a lot of you guys, there is nothing crazy special. Again, if you didn't innovate your product or you haven't like really branded your product, starting the week of Black Friday, like you're are you going to get sales? Sure. But I just think starting earlier this year is going to be a really great test, but also again, something new that we're doing. And I think it will actually help us have just a overall bigger month. That's the one thing, as well as I think, previously we've started like a week before. And I think that hasn't really given us enough time to validate the creatives for Black Friday and for that weekend for BFCM in general. And so giving ourselves more time, dropping some sauce in here, to actually test creatives in our promo campaign and continue to test evergreen creatives as well. Very product aware ads, because again, product aware ads are going to do really well during this time of year. Your VSLs and all that kind of stuff will probably still work. But, if you're just making really great product aware ads, it can definitely help you scale. And so I think giving ourselves more time to test creatives and just see if we can have an overall bigger month is something new that we're doing this year.
A lot of people, advise online. Some people will ask you to do lead gen, but I think in most cases it works really well if you're doing fashion. So it's a bit off tangent, right? If you're even running a supplement brand, and if you want to do that, The issue with giving too big of a sales during lead gen or whatever is it also impacts your LTV. You also attract customers who are only attracted to like really, really big sales drops or whatever it may be. It's a bit of a harder conversation to have because most of you don't even track this. You guys just rely on like Triple Whale to tell you the profit. It's not even true. So I wouldn't really push lead gen unless you're really sure that you're a fashion brand or beauty brand that has good returning customers. Majority of you guys are still, mainly first order profitable brands. Your returning customer rates are pretty low, 10-20%. If you can start earlier in the month and then get like 2-3x your budget for like 2 weeks extra, in most cases it's gonna be more worth it than you doing lead gen.
I remember what I was gonna say. It was about scaling ahead of time. And so I remember last year, we kind of had an idea of like what was going to come and like what the patterns are of BFCM. I realized last year as we were working with a lot bigger budgets that there's a time delay for when you actually increase budget. So when you're scaling on Meta and you're surf scaling, if you increase budget at 10 a.m., it's not really going to take an effect until like 11:30 or noon, right? And so that window where performance is really hot, you're scaling on that window, yet it's not actually, so like when the budget actually ramps up and kicks in and Meta starts actually spending the new kind of rate that you've set it at, it takes an hour or two, to actually get up. And to be honest, this year, I don't actually know what it's going to be like because Meta has moved completely away from daily to weekly. So it might even be even more delayed this year. So that's something that we're going to have to dig into and try to figure out. But the one thing that I would say is like knowing what's going to happen is very, very important when you're surf scaling. And so to drop a little nugget in there for you guys just from what we saw last year, every single Cyber Monday at like 5 or 4 p.m. EST, somewhere around there, we noticed there's a huge spike in like last minute shoppers that are like, oh, it's still Cyber Monday. I wonder if that sale's live. And everyone gets home from work and everybody just shops like crazy. And so a lot of guys, what they'll do is they're like, oh, Cyber Monday, bro, time to scale hard. And they start their budget super high in the morning and they get absolutely murdered in the morning and they have to scale down. And we saw people last year lose money in the morning because they think it's going to be as hot as Black Friday, which it's always not. But then come that later half of the afternoon, they're just trying to like recoup the profits that they lost in the morning. Whereas I think what we're doing this year is we're going to start our budgets lower on Cyber Monday morning. And then we're going to plan, like I said, we're going to schedule to kind of start scaling around that 3 to 5 p.m. EST sort of time zone. So that way, when that time hits, like we're going to be already up to the flighted budgets that we want. And our ads are going to be crushing in the auction. So that's another new thing that I would say we're doing this year. That's kind of it for new things. I guess what's a lesson from last year, Sean, that has kind of shaped a little bit of this year's planning and this year's approach to Q4?
I think every single year we do this, we realize that things can get pretty simple, and usually it's the simple things that scale. It's hard for a lot of new people to understand because in order to figure out what things matter, what to keep it simple, you need to first try the confusing things, which we have tried before. That's why we can tell you this. The creatives at Opera are super simple as well. Besides that, like we said, in terms of lead gen, for most of you guys, not too worth it. Besides that, Q4, if you planned it all ahead in time, you'll be just like us playing Minecraft this Q4 again.
It was Cronker, bro.
This year, it's going to be our Evolve Q4 Minecraft server.
Oh, man. Yeah, I would say, I don't think I have anything else to add on to that. So we'll leave that point. Minecraft, yeah. All right, so let's pivot a little bit here into inventory, supply chain, manufacturers, fulfillment, all this kind of stuff. You've obviously been very busy speaking with suppliers, going and doing trips to China, just really no life in it, to be honest. I don't even know if you've slept in the last month. But my first question for you, and this is going to be perfect timing for a lot of people, but how far in advance, for people to maybe learn for next year, how far in advance should you actually start planning your inventory for Q4 if you actually plan on having inventory? And also, should you order inventory ahead of time? Take us through that.
So when you start planning for Q4 inventory, it's at the start of Q3. When the start of Q3 again? The start of Q3 is when? It's not September.
July, I think.
It's July, yeah. July is when you start planning for Q4's inventory. So most of you guys are already pretty late. But not to worry, there's still things you can do. So Besides that, we are in September right now. For most of you guys, if you want your stock to order for BFCM big November, you're gonna need containers out by latest end of September. Let's say, assuming most of you guys watching this, I would assume have not purchased inventory in your life. You guys are still drop shipping. Some of you are already purchasing inventory. It's still applicable. So first of all, you need to know what's your lead times. So let's say your factory, your lead time for whatever it may be is 30 days. Okay, great. 30 days, assuming sea shipping, takes another 30 days. 60 days in total. If you order late September, it's only going to arrive end of November, which is still in time because there's still going to be December sales, get it before holiday, whatever it may be. So speaking of two perspectives, first of all, if you're a beginner or you're at least new to buying stock, why does this matter to you? We've had a lot of issues where people will scale hard during Q4. Then your factory comes calling, hey, we can't keep up with production. What are you going to do to all the orders you just took you can't fulfill? If you get screwed with that, your payment process gets shut down, Q1 can't scale at all, December can't scale at all, you're screwed. Out of the game. Which is not the goal. The goal is to keep scaling month over month, right? So regardless, I still do think it's good to have a chat with your supplier as well. Hey, I'm looking to buy some inventory to cover whatever. Ask them what are the lead times, how much they need to plan, etc. A bit into forecasting. Most of you guys, if you're working with a dropshipping agent, they're not going to be as good at forecasting. So ideally, you have it in-house. How to do the forecast, it's not like a magical app. I think someone shared with me there is an app on Shopify that can help you forecast. It's called Fabricator with a K instead of a C. So that tool I heard people use is pretty good for forecasting demand and avoiding overstocking. Besides that, for us, we do in-house. We have CFOs to come in and do projections for us. So for most of you guys, again, don't have any projections. What does that even mean? Basically, you just want to figure out, okay, if let's say your sales 3 to 4x in November, what do you need? Supply chain, ask your suppliers. If that happens, can you keep up? Will the factory blow up? Whatever it may be, great. If they can handle it, you can start talking with suppliers. Maybe you can scale different factories. Comfort, for example, huge hoodie brand, scales super fast. They need to scale factories very aggressively. If not, they can't keep up. That can be something for you guys, especially if you're doing fashion. You need to scale factories. If not, it's just, okay, maybe I need to buy inventory beforehand so I can block out space with my factory so they can actually produce enough for me. That's the important one. In terms of planning for that, it's really just having a chat with your supplier and figuring out, hey, if things 3 to 4x or whatever it may be, can you guys handle it? What do I need? Do I need more stock? Just having a chat, because most of you guys don't even chat with the supplier about this type of things. You guys think just magically your stock appears, you just pay for it, and then it gets delivered. It's not how it works.
How do you handle supply chain disruptions? Or you talked about like having multiple factories, and obviously at Hudson scale it's ridiculous, but like how do you handle, so what happens? Let's say, for example, you're scaling, and this might get into obviously one of the things that we've talked about before, but I think it's important for anybody who's new to hear it as well, around the playbook that we run when it's like, because we've not only ran out of inventory, we've like ran out of raw materials for some of our brands, where like we needed to completely shift our strategy. So how do you handle that? What is your process for handling that? I think let's maybe start like back end. What does that kind of look like? If you can maybe share, it's obviously going to be different from person to person, but if there's a little bit of back end stuff you could share, and then front end, how do you handle that with your marketing? Because obviously you're making money, you want to scale, but like you said, don't want to get payment processor shut down, don't want to have customers, leaving 1-star reviews all over, Reddit and Trustpilot and stuff like that. So how do you navigate that situation if you are scaling hard?
Okay. Both front end and back end, the most important thing about supply chain and your marketing is being open with your communication and being transparent. On the back end side, you need to chat with your supplier. Sales, like I said, 3 to 4x, what do you need to do? Having backup factories just in case, you can just only rely on one. Things might blow up, maybe you need multiple ones. And for you guys, you have bigger scale, okay, local production may make sense. You're selling in the US, especially supplements, skincare, the cost isn't, it is more, but it's not that much more. Maybe you guys can have backup factories in the US for these type of products as well, or wherever else in the world you're selling. Worst case, you sell out, things can still get in place. There may be disruptions, but things will still go into place. A lot of it just comes down to planning beforehand. Because really, your supply chain, your supplier, your factory has a better idea of their capacity instead of you just assuming things just magically spawn. So really just chatting with them, right? Getting multiple factories in place, multiple backup suppliers. That's really what you need to do. Everything just relies on backups. That's really on the back end side of things. On the front end, let's say on the website, on the creatives. So our playbook has just been running pre-orders. So some people are a bit worried to run pre-orders. Hey, what if my conversion rate goes down or whatever? What we've noticed is every single year we do this. We've had tested this across multiple brands in Evolve as well. If you do pre-orders right, your conversion rate doesn't drop that much. So in this way, you still get to sell where you're out of stock. Obviously, if you're out of raw materials, it's a different conversation, you know. Of course, you need to get your timeline right first, I'll say. If you know that you can get your stock only done in 30 days, that's fine. Pre-order, you tell people it's 30 days. So the way we run these pre-orders, one, we need transparent communication. That's the most important thing. You don't want to be a jackass and say 1 week and then it turns out 4 weeks, people still blow up your payment processes. It's not ideal. This allows us to, one, upfront you tell people, okay, it's only going to arrive in 2 weeks. You make sure that it's going to be 2 weeks in time. But so we counter this by adding urgency inside. Because being out of stock can actually be a good thing. Because urgency is one of the strongest desires for people to purchase. So how do you use that? Yes, we've been sold out multiple times. If you want to get it in 2 weeks, you need to buy it now. If not, you're going to sell out again. You need to wait for another 2 months. Do you want that? Most people are fine waiting in that case. So you add urgency as a counter to people waiting. This helps in two things. Customers know upfront, communications. They won't blow up your customer support. They know already that it's clearly a pre-order. You tell them on the emails as well. So with the urgency in place, your conversion rate doesn't really get impacted. Some people, the CVR stays flat, some improve a little bit. So you can keep selling regardless of being sold out. That's a strategy.
You want to pivot into some CRO stuff? Speaking of pre-orders, maybe a good pivot.
Speaking of pre-orders, how do we actually set up the site to implement it? So Mr. Spencer, what website changes would you do for these high traffic days?
Yeah, I think to double down on the pre-order stuff, I think one thing, urgency is obviously very important. And even just the fact that you now have actual scarcity. Some of our best ads during Q4 last year for one of our brands was actually just the fact that we've sold out X amount of times. And so if you've actually sold out and people know that, don't just say you've sold out if you've never sold out. But if you've actually sold out, people are like, man, number one, I better hurry up and get it. And number two, clearly this is something that people like because it's selling out. You know what I mean? We just randomly, I've been going deep in psychology, not as deep as most people, but been more than your average person. And I love the fact how we just create these associations where it's like, we might not even know the product, but if it's sold out before, all of a sudden we kind of have this like weird inkling that it's like good and like we should get it because clearly it's rare, and we place these inflated prices on things that are rare. And what's funny as well is like we've actually, Sean mentioned that your conversion rate doesn't actually change that much. We actually had for one of our brands, our conversion rate literally increased, which was insane. And so again, this is not saying run pre-orders, like don't be an idiot. But what I'm saying is that if you are in a position where you under forecasted and your ads are murdering, that's the best case scenario. Everybody knows, and Sean knows this, like I'm very risk adverse. Like I don't want to project a $2 million day. I'd rather project a 700K day and do 1.2 or 1.3, because then I can navigate that. And like Sean said, if you communicate clearly and you don't be a jackass, you can actually still have a good customer experience. But again, this is why it's important that you plan, because come Q4, you should have a couple extra customer service representatives. If you just have one CS person and you're planning to scale to 100K a day, like you don't understand. Like we're talking 7 to 8x the volume. That might mean that you need, even just 50%, so 3 to 4x the amount of people to support that stuff. So just be aware of the volume that's going to come. But going back to your original question around what website changes do we make, I think the biggest thing that we're doing differently this year is we're going to be split testing a lot of language on the website, mainly on our hero section. So things that are above the fold. I want to know what language is getting the highest amount of conversions. Is it maybe more scarcity driven language? Hey, Black Friday sale is now live. We've sold out 4 times, right? Or is it more urgency? Black Friday is now live. We have limited quantities for this promo. Is it maybe something around USPs like, hey, Black Friday is now live. This is going to help you with X, with X problem, or this is going to give you X benefit, right? I want to play around with all this stuff, and I want to see like what languages, and messaging is the most important thing. You'll notice here, like I'm going to talk, like we'll talk about image optimization and, everything around and making things congruent on the website. But messaging is the biggest thing for me that I want to be testing this year on all of our high traffic pages. So on our landing pages, on our product pages, on our, website or on our homepage, like those are the areas where I want messaging dialed in. So that's one of the biggest changes that that we make is optimizing the messaging. But again, like I said, split testing it as well. And then another thing that we do is we make sure that people see the savings. This is so important, and I just finished putting together a bit of a masterclass on this, but it is so crucial for people to see how much they are actually saving. Some of you guys, I've seen your websites and you get on and it's like, you're saying it's 60% off, but then when you look at it, it's, then you have a dollar amount on your product page, and then you look at your price slash and it's actually not 60%, it's like 70%, and then they get into the cart, and because you're just using regular, compare app prices in Shopify, it doesn't actually even show how much the savings are. And then some of you guys add a manual coupon code on top of that, and then some people use it, some people don't, and like it's just it's a shit show. You know what I mean? And so what we really focus on, going back to Sean's original point of keeping things simple, we try to simplify everything so we have the same marketing messaging everywhere on the site and even in the ads. So if we're saying save up to 40% off in the ads, that is what we say everywhere. Okay, it's save up to 40%. All right. Or if we're just doing a flat, hey, save 30%, then that is what we're saying. And then everywhere on the homepage, on the product page, into the cart, and even into the checkout, to kind of answer one of the other questions that we have on here, which is like, what checkout optimizations do we implement? We make sure from the first landing page all the way to the end, we're communicating how much they're saving and we're showing them. That is one of the biggest things that people do to justify what they bought on Black Friday. And also, to feel like they got a deal, is they want to see, like, they always tell people, hey, I saved this much. If anybody has a family member, they've probably heard their mom or their brother or their sister or their dad say, like, I bought this thing, Sean, but guess what? I saved $40. And that's how they justify things. You know what I mean? Even though they spent $200 more to get free shipping, they still tell themselves that they save money. And so at the end of the day, the biggest thing for you guys is like clarity. Please be clear. Automatic discount codes are something that I'm a big fan of. And on top of that, if you have developers, I would highly recommend that every single person has some kind of developer on standby to make sure, especially if you're planning to do over $20,000 or $30,000 a day in sales, even less than that. But if you're planning to do 20 or 30K on Black Friday and obviously have a big month in November, just get a developer. Like, have someone who can be there in case something goes wrong, right? It's so, like, I see so many people lose so much money because they're not actually prepared. And this is obviously, Sean, you've talked about with ad accounts and payments and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing on the website. So as much as we're optimizing messaging across all of our pages, as much as we're making sure the entire process is congruent and the messaging is clear, and like I said, we're also showing people how much they're saving, it's just crucial to make sure that you also have someone as a developer who can help you make these changes and make them properly. And then please, I don't know, for the love of something, just go pull up your phone and QA your entire website right now. Like especially the day before Black Friday or the week, like every day leading up to Black Friday, you should be pulling up your website on your phone, not on your computer and shrinking to mobile. Pull it up on your phone. And if even better, go to Facebook, click one of your ads and go through that customer journey and go through that experience and make sure it is seamless. Literally click everything, try to break everything. You guys don't realize how much shit is broken on your site or how many links are not linked. Your shipping policy is not linked. Your return policy is not linked. And when you're dealing with very hyper product aware and brand aware people that are wanting to buy products and they just need logistics to help them make that final decision, You guys have all this shit that's broken on your store. So go through, final piece of this rant, QA the hell out of your store, make sure everything is cleaned up, and if things are broken, jot them down, get a developer to come in and fix it. And that is how like you can actually have your website optimized for these high traffic days. Is number one, everything works, and then everything else that I mentioned around messaging, savings, congruence, and all that kind of stuff. So longest answer put short, that is what I would recommend that you do to optimize your your website and optimize your checkout.
Yeah. The funny part is everything we talk about, like it sounds pretty simple. Creatives keep simple, offers keep simple, site make sure everything is simple as well. But you'd be surprised. We've out of all the brands we've seen, right? At this point, it's few hundred, right? Like you guys can't get the basics down, and you guys are telling me you want to do some crazy things for Black Friday, bro. Your site doesn't even work properly. It's a big one, right? A lot of you guys can't really do maths properly now. Even like the offer on your site during Black Friday, you're saying it's 40% off. Turns out like the maths doesn't even check out. You're like, what the fuck? Your customers are gonna be wondering what's going on. Now you can just put it into GPT and just let you figure it out. These are basic things that really make the most impact, but most people don't really like to talk about it. It's the boring things.
Especially guys with bundles. I see this all the time where they'll have a bundle that's like 10% off, right? And then they run a 20% off sale and they're like, oh yeah, the bundle's 30% off. No, it's not. Like you can't just add. And we actually had one of our biggest clients do that. Like they didn't check the numbers. They just thought like because the bundle's 10% off and then 20% off equals 30. That's not what it is. It's 20% off of the 10% price, but that doesn't equal 30%. So like Sean said, do your math. Make Sean's parents and ancestors proud.
Facts.
Do your math correctly.
So people will be shocked, Like, how does that make sense in numbers? Please go to GPT and check it out yourself.
Yeah, please do. Double check that it actually makes sense, because you wouldn't believe how many sales you are leaving on the table or losing because people are just like, they're confused and they're having to do math and they're having to check things.
Facts. Besides that, we talked about on the site, is there anything you do special on the checkouts?
Checkouts, like I said, it's all about showing the savings. You need to make sure people see the savings. A lot of people, always ask me all the time, like, hey, Spencer, should I get on Shopify Plus to optimize my checkout? If you're not doing, honestly, above like 600K, I think the actual number for it to make sense is 800K. But remember, Shopify Plus is an annual thing. So unless you're planning to do 800K every single month for the next 12 months, probably wouldn't recommend Shopify Plus. But again, like if you even just update some, like you optimize your imagery in the basic checkout, that can support as well. Making sure you're communicating your guarantees, communicating your return policy, communicating your refund policy, shipping policy, like all that kind of stuff. Another thing as well, in the checkout, make sure like if you guys haven't gone into your settings and optimize your shipping bar so it actually says how long it takes to get the product, you wouldn't believe how many times I see people, again, customer goes, they go all the way to checkout, and then the shipping just says free shipping. It doesn't say how long it takes. Some people hide their shipping because it's so bad, but you have to tell people how long it takes to get the thing, right? And then what they'll do is they'll leave checkout and then they'll go check your shipping policy, and guess what? Like I said, your shipping policy link is broken. It doesn't even work. So what do they do now? They just leave, right? And so keeping the focus on checkout, showing people how much they're saving, and then on top of that, showing people how long it actually takes to get the product. This is even more important, especially as you get to December and people are Christmas shopping. If you guys have a 14-day shipping time, like, first of all, fix that. Go listen to Sean talk about how to communicate with suppliers and fulfillment partners and shipping partners and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, it's like you're just going to piss people off. And if you're trying to build a real brand and you're not just pumping and dumping like an idiot, you're going to want these customers to have a good experience. So like, it's just the amount of, I talked about this in my last YouTube video where I was 0 to 100K per month or whatever. But like some of these gurus that you guys are paying like 20 grand to are telling you to like rip content, rip products. Who cares about the customers? Just make money and like that's it. Get lucky. It's like, what kind of a strategy is that? And like, what are you actually building? You're not doing anything. You're just, like Sean calls some of you guys like copy pasters. Like that's your professional copy pasters. That's what you do. So it's like a lot of you guys have this mindset where it's all about money. But if you actually focus on providing value, giving a great customer experience, you know what's insane? If someone actually has a good customer experience, you know what they might do? They might tell somebody else about your product. And guess what? Now you don't have to be a Facebook ad company. You can be a real brand that has organic word of mouth as well. So the reason why this got derailed from checkout optimization is because it starts with that stuff. Like tell people how long it takes to get the product. It's so easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And a lot of you guys are just lazy with this stuff. So like again, go through, optimize your checkout to show savings, show shipping time. I'll leave my rant there before I get too carried away.
Yeah, I think we've done econ for a few years now. Like, we've been mainly maxing out on Facebook ads, right? But if you only had to rely on Facebook ads, you're really just making it really hard for yourself, especially for us trying to build brands, rather than trying to build a vehicle that compounds. Customers constantly being happy. You don't need to worry about Q1 sales dropping too much because things can compound, momentum is gained already, rather than you just having to tear down everything and rebuild back up. Which is why you see a lot of gurus as well. All they do is just keep starting new stores and new stores. They can't really build anything that compounds, which is what we're trying to do with the brand end of day. And going to what Spencer said with December as well, which is why I said you can still get a container, even like a small batch of stock, over to wherever you sell, US, UK, wherever it may be. End of September, it will reach end of November, and that's still in time for December, because in December people always shop for Christmas. Now you have a big advantage over your competitors. Hey, you get it before Christmas guaranteed, because you know your shipping times there if it's in the local fulfillment already. You get a big edge. Maybe you don't even need over 20% off. Maybe you just get it before Christmas guaranteed express shipping. CVR says the same. You don't need to drop margins and you can still crush it. So multiple ways to play the game.
100%.
So with that being said, a big question we usually get, is there anything specific we need to do for landing pages for Q4?
This one will actually be a shorter answer. But yeah, the main thing that we do is we dress up our landing pages and make sure we add Black Friday language. So a lot of you guys have landing pages all over the place. Make sure, or if you're at more scale, you likely do. We actually have tested this year and we have seen that without adding Black Friday to our landing pages, if you have a pre-lander that then goes to the website where it says the sale is live, that, if you don't dress up your entire page for Black Friday, it still is fine. Or no, I wouldn't say for Black Friday specifically. This has been more for sales that we've been running, like Labor Day sales or any of that kind of stuff. We have noticed that we've been able to get away with it. But for Black Friday specifically, optimize your landing pages so it has Black Friday language. And especially if you have a landing page that has an offer on it that's maybe better than your website, we do that with a lot of our brands. Make sure that the offers are actually aligned. You should just have one offer for Black Friday. You shouldn't have sneaky offers or anything like that. It should, unless you have VIPs, which is a whole other conversation that none of you guys even need, most of you guys don't need to worry about. But the point is for landing pages specifically, do we build net new ones? Yes and no. I think at the end of the day, we're still just focusing on making the best landing pages that we can, but we do oftentimes make specific collection pages for our Black Friday brands or for our Black Friday sales for our brands, where we just optimize it because we know people are just looking for the product and we're like, hey, here's the best Black Friday deal that you can get right now. These products are here, especially if you're doing if you're a multi-SKU store and you have save up to a certain amount, that can work really well. Hey, these things are 40% off. These things are 30% off. You see a lot of big brands do this. Another thing that I would say that we do is we also will optimize, I think, more specific Black Friday offers on landing pages. And I just said don't have different offers. But what I will say is sometimes we'll build, and this is something that we're probably going to test this year as well, is we're going to have specific Black Friday sales pages that have specific bundles or specific add-ons. So for example, having essentially maybe store credit offers going on in there, or we did this for VIP for one of our brands actually 2 years in a row, where we built a specific landing page for our VIPs that had specific bundles that only they could get to. So if you want to go more advanced strategy, you can do that. But for most of you guys, just optimize your existing landing pages, optimize your main offer page or product page so that it's simple and easy to understand, and you don't really need to focus on building. There's no specific Black Friday page that's going to absolutely murder. What I would just say is that if you want to actually create a Black Friday page that crushes, just make it an direct response offer page, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And talk about how maybe it's going to be a great gift. That's all you really need to do. You don't need to overcomplicate it.
Facts. Well, anything else on the CRO side people need to do on your site?
I think CRO, no. Like I said, the biggest thing, if you take anything away from this, please just go QA your site and make sure it's not broken. That's it. That's my biggest ask. And then from there, make sure the savings and sale is clear. So those are my two big things, and hopefully that helps make somebody a little bit more money. But I guess moving back into making more money, Sean, how do you scale hard? You're kind of the media buying guy, media buying Minecraft guy. How do you scale hard on peak days? What is part of your strategy on how you're able to spend so much in a single day?
Okay, great. Before we talk about this, which is why we left it at the last part, because now you have your creatives, your offers, your site, your supply chain, all handled already. What do you actually do As you know, you click buttons, increase budget. But how do you actually increase the budget? So specifically for us, we serve scale. If you guys don't know what serve scaling means, it just means instead of increasing budget, every day, every 3 days, whatever it may be, you increase it multiple times throughout the day. And you might hear people say, oh, how to do this, just increase it every 4 hours, every 6 hours. There's a better approach to do it, and it's just based off data. For us, we track based on the amount of spend you have. The periods might change. Some of you guys may need to track your hourly revenue, hourly ROAS. Some of it is 2 hours, 4 hours, depending on your scale. So let's say we track every hour as far as, spending huge amounts. You're spending 100K per day, let's say. Great. Every hour, what is the ROAS? What's the revenue? If I know that hour, the performance is doing good, I'm going to scale it. Maybe, the next hour, I'll scale it double or whatever it may be. Because this is the biggest time of the year. You need to take advantage of it. And it's not going to be like, I'm going to scale slow, because market sentiment is there. You want to take advantage of it as much as you can. So for us, we track everything hourly, every 2 hours, depending on the brand, different periods, and we just scale accordingly. The benefit of it now, instead of just doing just that, we have so much data now from the brands we've run, from all the brands in Evolve. You can actually see and expect, during Q4 periods, like Spencer said, when should we expect big and low periods so we can scale beforehand. Because even anyone who tells you to do serve scaling, you're serve scaling it when you see a period that's already good. But what if you can predict the next period is going to be good? You can't do that unless you have data, which we now have. So everything's in place. You really just track the data. You serve scale, increase budgets every 2 hours. And in between, you chill. That's what we did last year.
Yep. And I would say as well, like for most people, if you're aiming to do like a 10K day, you probably realistically need to serve scale I'd say like max 4 hours. So that just means like log your data so you can see what that period was. That's the biggest thing, is you want to be scaling based off of the periods. And like Sean said, we're going to be trying to predict that this year. But a lot of you guys just look at your overall ad account ROAS. And so what we've seen is, say, for example, morning Black Friday, it's hot as hell. You check your ad account, you're at a 6x ROAS, right? What do? You scale. Okay. And then what ends up happening is, because of that scale, and you guys are still only looking at the ad account, you then see that maybe, for example, you're at like a 4.5 ROAS now, 4 hours later. And what do? You're like, well, I'm still going to scale, right? And that's where it's wrong. Because what actually could have happened is, if you were tracking your data properly, which we have, I think the sheets involved, I don't know if you made a video about it, Sean, but anyway, the sheet that we use is there. And at the end of the day, you might have had a period where, yes, you scaled, and yes, the overall ad account is still at a 4.5, but during that period, you actually had a 1.2x ROAS, which is why you went from a 6 to a 4.5. And so now you're scaling when you just had a 1.2x ROAS, right? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so it's super important to make sure that you guys are actually scaling based off of the right data. And like I said, if you're doing like 10K days, probably only need to check every 4 hours. That would be the earliest. I think for some of our smaller brands last year, we checked it like every 6. If you're planning to do 20, 30K days, then yeah, I would still say 4 hours. I think the only time you really need to check more than 2 hours is if you're going to be doing over 50K days. And if you're going to be doing over 100K days, even then, when we did 800K, bro, we checked every 2 hours. So I would say for $1 million day, we're probably going to be checking every hour, but that's going to be, for $1 million day, just to see how much we can squeeze. And again, we're going to have specific periods where we know we can push and scale. But yeah, serve scaling is crucial. I see so many brands where they're media buyers, and Sean, we can attest to this, because that's why we got rid of the strategists, the quote unquote strategists that we had last year. They weren't even online for Black Friday. Like, I was like, where are you guys? Like, how are you not online for Black Friday? I don't think Sean slept for 3 days, but like, you should be scaling. Like, what else are you going to be doing other than playing Minecraft and scaling? Like, you've got 2 jobs. That's it. So anyway, the point is like, I see so many people leave a ton of money on the table because they're not scaling Black Friday. They're like, screw it. I'll set up a rule that says to scale, or I'll set up a budget and just hope it better, or I'll blast a cost cap. Like, come on, bro. Like, Black Friday is such a good time to scale. And so we recommend scaling hard. But final thing I'll say, this is a very important thing, because we had some fellow evolvers, that learned their lesson. The more expensive the lesson, the more that you learn. But they did not make profit on Black Friday because they wanted to have a 6 screenshot rather than making actual money. So for you guys that are chasing revenue and chasing big days, I know it's exciting, right? You hear me and Sean talking about $1 million a day. Our brand last year that made 800K in a day did what they do, Sean? Like 350,000 in net profit.
Yeah, something crazy. Yeah.
So we didn't do that spending 800K. Like we spent, I think, 150. Like it was ridiculous. Okay. And so I want you guys to understand that the goal is to make profit. You work so hard all year long. You get to this period where buyers are actually like, holy cow, like we're getting sales. Like Shopify notifications are awesome. But the point is like you're supposed to be making profit, not revenue. So don't go be a big dog and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do a 20K day when the biggest day you've had is 2, and go and blast your budgets to try to get the most amount of revenue that you can and rinse all of your profits. Because based on the assets that you have in the account, your creatives, your offer, your product, all of the work that you've done up to that point, you're gonna have a ceiling. There's a reason why one of our brands did 10K and another did 800. Okay, so not every brand is going to be able to do that. So it's important to make sure that you don't get caught up in trying to chase big numbers and that you actually make profit. So please, like, don't ego play Black Friday to try to get a sick screenshot for Twitter. Like, I want you guys to make actual profit and make actual money.
That's big facts. All people, like, we say things like 10K days, 100K days, but it's not like we only do it because it's super profitable. End of the day, that's the most important things, right? A lot of gurus will show these screenshots. On the back end, it doesn't look so good. Maybe they're trying to sell you some stuff. I've seen that happen a lot of times, which is why if you guys have seen the video I did on the 800K day, there's a profit there as well. So always optimize for profits. People always say, oh, although it's coming up to Black Friday, should I be scaling? If your profits don't look good anyways, there's no point. It's not going to magically improve by itself,
And also understand I mentioned this to like LTV brands too. The LTV, like the cohort that you get in November and December is way different than the cohort that you get throughout the year. Because a lot of these people, like for example, I might buy, for example, like I'm shopping for my girlfriend and I'm shopping on Sephora, right? I might buy something from Sephora for my girlfriend on Black Friday. And now I'm in Sephora's cohort for November. Am I going to come back and buy from? No, like I'm not going to buy, like if I buy another gift in November, maybe, but you have to understand that the customers that are shopping during these periods are sometimes like not the person that's going to have a high LTV. Okay. So again, there's obviously an LTV associated with the person that is getting the gift, and you're not really able to track that. But with that said, just make sure that, again, if you're like, oh, well, I'm an LTV brand and I'm going to get all these new customers and I don't care, I'm going to break even on Black Friday. Customers behave way, way, way differently. Now, I might not know something. I mean, there are obviously brands that do $50 million a month that maybe have more data that say like, break even on Black Friday to just acquire the entire market, and then next year, get your profits. But at the end of the day, I'd rather, most of you guys are not in that position, so just focus on profits. One final thing that I'm going to add in, and then we can talk about just any other kind of Q4 nuggets to wrap it up, Sean, is that a lot of you guys as well, and this is for my brand owners that have returning customer bases. We have brands in Evolve that do $1 million a month recurring, right? And we actually have clients that are getting close to that as well, where their recurring revenue is $1 million a month. They have 50 to 60% returning customer rates, right? But what I see a lot of people do, and we still even have a client that whenever he has a big spike in returning revenue, he's like, yo, let's scale. I was like, no, like we should not scale on that. So if you guys have returning customer bases, one thing that everybody loves is the massive spikes, right? You announce your Black Friday sale, your email team actually doesn't suck. They send SMS, they send email, boom, you do like 50K in like an hour or something like that, right? What happens to your Facebook ad account, or what happens to your triple whale? All of that attribution a lot of the times gets thrown into those accounts. And so what do you guys do? And especially for those of you guys that run on ROAS rules or CPA rules, it's so dumb. But the point is like you guys have this huge spike, and now all of a sudden you think your ads are murdering, when meanwhile it was just all the emails that you sent. And then what do you start doing? You start scaling your ad account, and it's just like, it's the dumbest thing that you can do. So please, 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 please do not start scaling your ad account when you do a big email blast. And that's why it's also important, if you have an agency managing your ad account right now, or even if you're managing your ad account or your media buyer is managing the ad account, make sure they know when your sales are going live and when your emails are going out and your SMS is going out, because you're just rinsing profit that you don't need to rinse by scaling off of that data. So make sure, if you guys want to know what we do, number one, we have the schedule. We know when emails are going out. So when we see a big spike, we don't freak out and we don't start surf scaling the account. That's number one. And then number two, when we're surf scaling, a lot of the times we're actually surf scaling based off of 1-day click data, which means that people are clicking our ad today and buying today. Now, there is going to be a funnel, especially when you first launch your sale. In the first day, you're going to see a lot of 7-day click data come in. But for us, what we like to do is we actually like to check, especially on Saturday and on Sunday and Monday as well when we're scaling. We really like to look at 1-day click data to see, hey, how many people are clicking the ads today and actually buying. And if you guys have Triple Whale, you can see the customer journeys in there as well. But using 1-day click data is also a really great way to see, yeah, your ROAS is going to go from a 12x to maybe like a 2.5x, but it's going to give you actual like incremental data. So I just want to make sure as well, it's another big point that we see so many like agencies, it's just like, it hurts my head. They're like, oh, Facebook's ripping. It's like, yeah, because you just sent an email and 70% of your returning customers just bought. That's why Facebook's ripping. And those customers are still seeing your ads, especially if you're running view through attribution, which is why the account gets so inflated. But long rant put short, I want you guys to make money. So that's my final piece on media buying. Sean, any other media buying stuff that you want to talk about?
Yeah, just adding on to that, right? Which is why whenever people show like Black Friday screenshots of their ad account ROAS being super high, it's always super sus. Because by default, your ad account, if you guys didn't change the settings, your attribution by default is both 7-day click and 1-day view. To explain what that means in short, click-through means someone actually clicked on your ad they purchased. View-through means they saw it, they purchased through somewhere else, which could be emails. So view-through means it's not incremental usually, which is why we only want to see click. You can have a 4x reported overall ROAS because of your emails, but actually your click-through is 1. If you scale based off that, you're going to lose even more money, which is why it's important for you to check it out. So that's the thing on incrementality.
Well, do we have any other Q4 nuggets? What else can I get out of you for the next 10 minutes?
I do have a pretty, some people might call it a pretty big Q4 nugget, okay? So some of you guys don't have any stores right now. There's a certain type of niche that does extremely well during Q4 only. Of course, there are multiple. I've seen quite a few gurus as well. A lot of their big screenshots come from this certain niche during Q4. It's kids' toys. Kids' toys, you can do 10 mil in 30 days in Q4. The rest of the year, it can be like 500K per month, a few thousand a day. If you guys don't have any stores up running right now, kids' toys is very, very hot. That's a chance.
I don't know if I'm gonna have to cut that out, dude. Kids' toys. Are we starting a kids toy a kids toy brand?
Who said it's not already live? Who knows? You guys, you'll see during my screenshots when it comes out Q4.
All right, bro. That's thankfully this is near the end. What else we got for Q4 sauce, bro?
It's not much, honestly. Keeping it simple, really going through implementing all of these things. Like everything we talk about here, it's not like it takes crazy amount of time to do. It's pretty simple. The rest, no one thinks about it. We've done Q4 so many years. Like it's usually never the complicated stuff that works. It's usually just so super simple stuff.
Yeah. I think one other thing that for people who have made it this far, I think one other thing that I'll throw in there is just really just knowing your numbers. I didn't really talk about this. Obviously, with the Evolve call, we did go pretty deep into this, and I was very stern or very adamant about this, saying if you are optimizing an offer, you need to make sure that you reanalyze your margins with the offer. This is another thing. This should just be called like how to actually not lose money during Black Friday, because you wouldn't believe how many people lose money. I had a guy DM me yesterday saying, he's like, oh yeah, dude, I made like 50K profit last month, and then somehow this month I lost 25. And he had no idea. Like he thought he was making money the whole month and he lost 25 grand. I'm just like, so like know your numbers, please. Like if you don't have someone who literally does your bank account bookkeeping, not your triple whale, not your Google sheet that you like copy and paste numbers into and probably forget to add stuff to. You should have someone who literally goes through your bank accounts and says, here's how much money came in and here's how much money came out. Oh yeah, I forgot that I spent, 100 grand buying a new car or buying a Patek because I thought I made it, and now I lost 50 grand and I also owe 100 in taxes. So I kind of screwed myself there. But the point is like, when you guys going back to the actual offer point, number one, know your numbers. But number two, doubling down on that, if you run an offer and say your break even is usually a 1.5. Well, if you run an offer that's 25 or 30% off, guess what? Your break even is not 1.5 anymore. Okay, it might be a 2x break even. And so now some of you guys are running at 2x because that's what you normally run at, but you're just at more scale. So, because again, every time the whole goal of like running an offer is to obviously improve efficiency so you can scale. But what ends up happening to you guys is you keep the same KPI even though your break even has changed. And so you guys think you're chat scaling and ripping. You're like, oh, bro, I did 250K this month, like because I launched a new offer, I did 600K this month. And then you actually, like, you know, if you actually have somebody do your bookkeeping for you, you're like, wait, I thought I was making, because you forgot to change your, you know, you didn't check your actual bank account, and all of a sudden you made 10 grand when you thought you made 200, right? So like, know your numbers, double check what your margins are so you can reset your targets and your KPIs, because I see so many people do this and it's just, again, like Sean said, it's so simple, but honestly, like, because we've made this mistake too, like you just don't think about this stuff because there's so much that goes on in business, especially during Q4. You guys probably put a lot of pressure on yourselves where it's like, Q4 has to print, like this is where I'm going to be able to buy my Lambo sort of thing. And you guys, you know, you kind of just brain fart essentially. So like, this is why preparation is so important. And, you know, I'm kind of glad that we're getting this video out to you at least in September. So at least you kind of have a month and a half to kind of apply this for the people who watch it early. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is honestly, even to some extent, a bit of an evergreen video for people, just in like general knowledge. Even if it's not Black Friday, like make sure your site's not broken. Like, don't overcomplicate your media buying structure. Like, make sure you actually know your numbers. Like, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about does apply outside of this. But I'd say that's probably the only other thing that I have, because there's just so many people that just don't do that. And it hurts me to see.
What would be helpful for a lot of you guys as well, if you're not utilizing this already, you can just go to GPT or Claude or whatever you guys use, just ask them, hey, my store is doing this now. Is there anything I need to look out for from my e-commerce store in Q4? Give you a list of things that you need to be looking out for. Because it's like, okay, I can tell you this, but if I don't tell you this, you guys don't find this video, let's say, how are you going to know? Of course, you're going to need mentors then, which we are here for. But if not, you still need to go to GPT to ask, are there any things you need to look out for? It's a quick tip for you guys.
All right. Well, brother, Q4, we're planned out. We're locking in. Any other final words, any other things we need to leave with the people?
Final words. We'll see you guys next time. Q4 Black Friday Minecraft server update. That's all.
If you guys want to be in the Minecraft server on Black Friday, you have to be in Evolve. That's my pitch. So we're not even selling Evolve anymore. We're just selling a Minecraft server. All right. I appreciate you jamming, bro. It's good as always. And for anybody who made it to the end, I hope you guys got value from this. And if you do want to check out the communities that we got, they're down below. And I hope you guys are able to crush it this Q4 and make profit. That's the goal. All right. See you guys in the next one.
Peace.